And this is Aaron Dykes again, back from break. We have Ted Anderson coming up, but right now some more news. Iran threatens to torpedo U.S. aircraft carriers. Paul Joseph Wasson has the story. A senior Iranian military commander has warned that Iran has the capability to sink U.S. aircraft carriers in the Persian Gulf using detection-evading submarines that can fire torpedoes. Lieutenant Commander of the Iranian Army's Self-Sufficiency Jihad, Rear Admiral Farhad Amiri, stated that the Iran submarines are able to ambush and hit enemy vessels, especially U.S. aircraft carriers, from the seabed throughout the Persian Gulf, according to the Fars news agency. Of course, more just sabering towards war, tensions very high on all sides of the coin, and we hope things just simply don't go there. Meanwhile, Obama has said no on the oil pipeline, said he didn't like the legislation, wants to hear more about the environmental impact. Not that he's against the oil pipeline that would bring, end the wars and bring back production, at least to the North American continent, from Alaska oil up there through Canada. Of course, he signed the NDAA legislation when he didn't like that bill, but he won't sign the oil pipeline deal. That story is something to keep an eye on. Meanwhile, Fukushima radiation spreads worldwide. All those conspiracy theorists were right, as California, Finland, Canada, Australia, and many others hit by radiation. The University of California, Berkeley has detected cesium levels in San Francisco area well above EPA limits and even higher than they were 6 months ago. And it goes on to describe the impact in all the other countries. Premature infant deaths are up because of Fukushima. Thyroid cancers are also mysteriously up in the U.S. and a whole lot more. We've had on expert Chris Busby on this topic, but now it's really coming home to roost, isn't it? Even as in Japan, they still say they have it under control, even as they're about to drill into the containment vessel to try to find where the missing nuclear fuel has gone. What? Danger, anyone? Meanwhile, the AMA Journal says make participation in vaccine trials mandatory. The article, written by Oxford University's Suzanne Sheehy and Joel Myers, entitled, "Should Participation in Vaccine Clinical Trials Be Mandated?" Many societies, they say, already mandate that citizens undertake activities for the good of society. In several European countries, registration for organ donation has switched from the opt-in current U.S. system to opt-out systems, where only those who specifically don't want to register would do so, and all others would be in. Most societies expect citizens to undertake jury service when called upon. In other examples, the risk of inconvenience to an individual are usually limited and minor. Mandatory involvement in vaccine trials is therefore perhaps more akin to military conscription, a policy operating in 66 countries. In both conscription and obligatory trial participation, individuals have little or no choice regarding involvement. So we're all just supposed to be guinea pigs. And the other thing is, they already tried this argument back in 1927. It was a farce. It was pseudoscience. It was under eugenics. Supreme Court Chief Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes tried to claim that the same principle that supported compulsory sterilization was the same one that supported compulsory vaccination. Let me give you a little hint as to what that principle is. It's nothing. It doesn't exist. It's unconstitutional. It's against the natural law and the rights of man. Meanwhile, gold is expected to hit $2,000 an ounce. That, according to a new Thomson Reuters report, predicting another rise after last September saw $1,900 for gold per ounce. Among other reasons for it, the coming QE3 quantitative easing and the continuing economic shocks. Today's gold price is $1,660. We turn now to GCNlive.com founder and owner and Midas Resources owner Ted Anderson to talk about everything going on with gold. Ted, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me up again, Aaron.
Yeah, so we've both been looking at the London Guardian headline, gold price to hit $2,000 an ounce. Tell us your outlook on this.
Well, I mean, I'm reading the same article, and they're talking about possibly that we've seen the end of this this gold run that we've had, but not hardly. I mean, I can tell you right now, central banks have accumulated 430 tons of gold to their position. These are the countries that make and manufacture currencies, and they're betting on the fact that gold is going to go up. There are parts in this article, they're talking about $2,000 an ounce this year. I wouldn't doubt it a bit. I mean, we right now presently are seeing a lot of European countries, Europeans themselves, running to U.S. dollar, U.S. treasuries to be exact, and that's why we've seen the increase in the dollar from about $68 to $80.50 where it is right now. But at this particular point, China is selling their treasuries. They're taking advantage of this because they've been the big lenders to the United States. We've been living off of them for the last 30 years, and now they're looking at this as an opportunity to reduce their holdings. And so I can tell you right now, the central banks aren't betting on the fact that gold is going down. I don't think that China's betting right now on the fact that gold is going down. As a matter of fact, they're net buyers. I mean, Korea, for goodness sakes, for the first time since 1998, have bought gold. Central Bank of Korea, I should say. It's not the government of Korea, but the central banks of Korea.
Well, of course, as you know, gold went to $19.20 an ounce last September. That was in the midst of QE1 and QE2. And part of this article says they're expecting QE3 to come around. They've kind of been doing intermediate QE3 as well, quantitative easing. What will that do to gold's outlook, Ted?
Well, quantitative easing is going to drive gold prices up. I mean, we've seen last time around when they tried, of course, TARP and the bailouts there, gold went from about $600 an ounce to $1,000 an ounce. When QE1 came out, we saw gold go from $1,000 to about $1,200, QE2 all the way up to $1,900 an ounce, and now they're talking about QE3. I mean, it's obvious. That's printing money. It's creating debt. It's increasing our liabilities and increasing money supply. The foreign markets are going to look at that as another death knell in the United States dollar, and so are people domestically. They start quantitative easing again, we're going to see gold go up, silver as well.
And this article kind of rosily points to that gold prices might not run, that this bull run may end if the economies around the world improve. But obviously, if you read between the lines, they're not expecting a great improvement in the economy. Things are clearly only getting worse.
You can see that with the central banks. So I have to tell you, the central banks know more than anybody else what's going to happen in the future. They have the ability to create money. They have the ability to adjust interest rates, make them where they want them to be. They're looking for an economic downturn. They're looking for weakness in the dollar, and that's why they're buying gold and silver. I mean, they've increased their holdings to 430 metric tons in the marketplace. That's a large increase. They're buying gold. They're the ones that are manufacturing the currencies. They're betting on the fact that they'll have to print more money to stimulate the economies. I don't think we're going to see this big economic increase. I mean, right now, they're voting on another increase in the United States debt. They're trying to raise the debt ceiling. They want more quantitative easing. All that spells out more economic problems, and I believe that that's what we're going to have. And that's why I think the central banks right now are hedging their bet and saying, hey, we need to get away from the U.S. dollar. We need to get into gold. They have the printing press. They're able to print as much as they want. If the dollar was great, they wouldn't necessarily even look at gold. But they know between each other they can't trust currencies, so they have to have gold as a collateralization so their currencies can hold value, and that's what's going on.
Shifting gears, Ted, in the presidential election, there's one certain candidate who they're always trying to push out of the room because he doesn't go for the World War III thing, and he also has common sense on the gold standard, on economic issues, really foresaw so much of the collapse coming. That, of course, is Ron Paul. It's no secret. You've been a supporter of him. What kind of outlook do you see for his campaign?
Well, they have a tough battle to hoe. There's no question about it. I mean, Romney is really pulling hard in the polls. You can see he's up in the 30% range. Ron Paul gets up into the 20s. But the bottom line is to have a real, true, solid candidate, somebody that you can rely on, somebody you can trust, his position, and he's not going to be bought off by the lobbyists and the lobbying groups. I mean, for starters, the reason why there's so much money going into Romney is because there's these super PACs and, funded by people like companies like Goldman Sachs that have just this huge power to buy ads and push Romney up to the top. Romney doesn't even control this thing, but he is the elite. He is the chosen candidate by the establishment, if you will. And Paul is not. Paul's outside of the establishment. They are afraid of Paul. They're afraid of his ideas. And when I'm looking at the donation screen right now for the South Carolina donor thing, I mean, $1.689244 million have been raised for South Carolina alone. His general fund has probably been over $7 million now. I don't know what he's not reporting. It has to be beyond that. And I can tell you, this man is the real deal. Whether or not he's going to become president of the United States, I can't. It's hard to say whether that'll happen. Boy, he has a lot of steam behind him this year. I sure would love to see that happen. But I can tell you, the establishment is doing anything they can to cut this man down, and you've seen that in the debates out in Carolina with the Fox debate that happened here just a couple days ago. You're gonna see more of that in the future, and again, I just don't think Ron Paul's a great debater, but you can tell where his heart is, and you know where he's going to be voting. And if you want to cut back on government spending, if you want to get this country in great shape, back again where to its roots, rather than running the value of our currency down to nothing and borrowing our children's future away, he's your man.
Yeah, and of course, obviously, he has thankfully caught the ear of the people here in 2012. Not as much success, but growing then in 2008. But the fight's not over for the election either. I've been reading about a number of the GOP primary states that are no longer winner-take-all. They're splitting up the delegates proportionally, and I know there's a lot of movements at the local and state level to make sure Ron Paul delegates are in place. Do you foresee some kind of thing going on at the convention where, it's an actual convention where they go back and forth and lobby positions and that sort of thing?
Well, there's going to be a fight there. I don't think Ron is going to drop out of this race going into the nomination, but I can tell you it will be. We may get down to that, and that election may be decided at that convention. And the delegates, I mean, for instance, Iowa, Ron Paul probably walked out with most of the delegates, even though the straw poll showed Romney winning the, in the straw poll. Minnesota, I can see the same thing happening. We're a caucus state where you'll have certain delegates that move on and vote for more delegates until you finally get down to the state convention where they actually decide on who the presidential candidate's going to be. There's a battle ahead here. Ron still stands a great chance, and I can tell you I'm fighting with him the whole way.
Well, that's Ted Anderson, supporter of GCN Live and Money Where His Mouth Is at MidasResources.com. Thanks for joining us, Ted.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me up.
Good night. Just remember, government can't save you, it can only enslave you. We go now to our quote of the day. It is from Ron Paul. The gold standard would keep you from printing money and destroying the middle classes. Every country where you have runaway inflation, there's no middle class. Today, we have a growing poor class, and we have more billionaires than ever before. So we're moving into third world status. And that's all for tonight. Of course, I do want to remind you we have a 15-day free trial for PrisonPlanet.tv, a great chance to take a look, walk around inside Prison Planet TV, see what you get for your money. Alex's live show, 3 hours plus every day, the INFOWARS nightly news, 5 days a week, all the documentaries, all the special reports, the ebooks, and a whole lot more. Please check it out. We depend on your support to get this message out to as many people as possible so we can restore this republic and end all this nonsense as soon as possible. It's definitely a fight, and we need your help. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.